Hello, we are the British Yearly Meeting Reparations Working Group, and we're here to read to you our statement.
Dear friends, we're part of the Healing Historical Injustice stream. Hope for the future. What do love and justice require of British Quakers? Love and justice require us to tell the truth as best we can about historical and contemporary injustices. Love and justice require us to believe those who have the bravery and honesty to share their stories with us. Love and justice require us to examine our own practices and behaviours and to work for systemic change. Love and justice require us to consider deeply how the Society of Friends in Britain might make financial and other reparation for our part in the wrongs of the transatlantic trafficking of enslaved peoples, colonialism and economic exploitation. These statements are all in minutes 27 and 33 of Britian Yearly Meeting in 2022. They challenge us individually and corporately in many ways. What do they mean to us? What are we led to do now?
One first easy step we took was to set up a reparations working group to consider and advise on Britain Yearly Meeting's response. We're members of that group, and we've identified 4 work streams to help us: historical research, theological research, estimating the financial impact of harms done, and networking and listening. So what truths about historical and contemporary injustices are we required to tell? And what was it, our British Quaker part in these injustices? The historical research work stream will explore this. Here is one significant historical truth. Quakers are known as leaders of the abolitionist movement, which indeed we were. But this historic view ignores the fact that some Quakers and Quaker families were involved. There were Quakers involved in trafficking enslaved people, and some Quakers owned enslaved people on their plantations. Some profited from trading in the goods that the enslaved were forced to produce. For example, we know a lot about 18 Lancaster Quaker merchants who used the wealth they had to acquire from trading in enslaved peoples. We know they were not disowned for trading in these peoples. So their Quaker community accepted this, or maybe they turned a blind eye. Whatever they did, they were complicit. Some of the profit went to developing factories for cotton spinning and manufacturing. Some was used to establish local banks, and these have later become Barclays Bank and the Royal Bank of Scotland. Some of the money was invested in local infrastructure such as roads and canals and railways. There are other examples. Bristol was a major port of the enslaved peoples. Friends in Bristol meeting have discovered that 18 Quaker families were involved. Friends in Birmingham are exploring the involvement of West Midlands businesses, Quaker businesses, in the trade of enslaved peoples. And there are individual friends with Quaker ancestry who have uncovered involvement in enslavement in earlier generations. And bound up in this is another uncomfortable truth. Some Quakers justified, normalised, or ignored the grave injustices of widespread trafficking of enslaved peoples. And this goes against our religious teaching. Matthew chapter 7 verse 12 tells us, "Therefore, all things whatsoever you would do that men should do to you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets." We've set up a theological work stream to help modern Quakers understand this. And we know that notions of racial superiority were embedded in the management of many British colonies. We don't know much yet about British Quaker involvement in the colonisation of the continent of Africa, but we do know more about the Caribbean and North American colonies. Please tell us if you know of anything or any leads we can follow to help our work.
The last uncomfortable truth to mention here is economic exploitation. It is clear to us after the colonial period was over, economic exploitation and resource extraction continued, often based on systems already established in the days of empire. We are aware that the effects of these uncomfortable truths and other historical injustices are felt in the lives of friends and many others today. This leads to the second point in the minute mentioned at the beginning of this. Love and justice require us to believe those who have the bravery and honesty to share their stories with us. So, who has already told us their stories? Some friends in Britain have told us uncomfortable truths about how our behaviour has affected them. Some friends from different parts of the Quaker world have told us about the challenges they face. We have annual Swarthmore lectures during Britain Yearly Meeting. 2 have been particularly challenging to us. In 2016, the lectures were Kenyan friend Esther Mombo and Rwandan friend Cecile Nyarwara. They spoke about peace building in Africa, which was inspiring. They also reminded us that the first 50 years of Quakerism in East Africa had coincided with the last 50 years of the colonial period. They told us that colonialism had often exacerbated ethnic tensions, making conflict more likely. They also said that support and expertise from donors and others were very welcome and needed. However, it was much more effective when those wishing to help focused on the needs that had been identified locally, rather than arrogantly assuming that the donor knows best. We're hearing the same message from other faith groups, for example, the Church Reparations Action Forum of Jamaica. The second lecture was given by Helen Minnis in 1922. Helen identifies herself as a Black Scottish Quaker with a white English mother and a Black Caribbean father. Her lecture challenged us to actively seek out new perspectives and not to stay in our comfort zones. The content was a 2021 yearly meeting setting out our commitments to become an anti-racist church. She used the idea of swimming away from our comfortable part of the ocean to a place where the temperature and the fish were different. She said we could notice both the fish and the temperature because they were different. Then, when we returned home, we would have fresh eyes and would notice things that we hadn't noticed before. In other words, we would understand our own path better if we actively sought out alternative perspectives. Friends, we want you to tell us your perspectives on what we're trying to do. Tell us things you think we need to know. Our networking and listening workstream focuses on this.
Listening in this way may also help us with the third point in our minute. It was, love and justice require us to examine our own practices and behaviours and to work for systemic change. We have work to do amongst ourselves. Some British friends have been thinking about this for a while, some only more recently. Some haven't started yet, and some question the need to travel in this direction, or whether other journeys are more urgent. Some point out quite rightly that we have poverty in the UK and great inequality, and suggest that this should be the priority. Other meetings and Quaker groups are looking to what they can do, and some are taking action. However, our task is clear. The final point in the minute expresses this well. It says, love and justice require us to consider deeply how the Society of Friends in Britain might make financial and other reparation for our part in the wrongs of the transatlantic trafficking of enslaved people, colonialism, and economic exploitation. The work stream examining the harms done by British Quaker involvement in the transatlantic trafficking of enslaved peoples aims to quantify the financial cost of these harms. An accurate and shared understanding of our history is crucial in understanding how we work today and to our obligations.
Our testimonies must guide us in what to do. Truth and integrity require us to face up to what we now know. We have acknowledged Quaker complicity, and now we must find ways to act. equality. We know that the world is a very unequal place and that we should work towards greater equality. And our peace testimony reminds us to work to mitigate the root causes of conflict. Our advices and queries help us too. And here are some very relevant and much loved quotes. Think it possible that you may be mistaken. Be open to new light from whatever source it may come. Walk cheerfully over the world, answering that of God in everyone. And when opportunities arise, do you take them? We feel led to network with the world family of friends and listen, and be brave. We feel led to focus on two things. One is what British Quakers can and should do, and the other is trying to influence our government, our businesses, and other agencies. We are also committed to networking and collaborating with faith and other groups working on these issues. And we will encourage and learn from actions that individual meetings feel led to take. So, friends, we in Britain are on a journey. Guided by our testimonies, we want to listen and share with the world family of friends with open minds and hearts. We have faith that the breadth of experience and wisdom across the world family is a rich resource to guide us and friends everywhere. Our hope for the future is that the spirit of Ubuntu in this World Plenary enables the global family of friends to become a pattern and example of healing historical injustice. And our hope for the future is that British friends play as full a part as we can in this. Thank you, friends.